Hi, it's Wavemaster here. In today's video, I'm going to be walking through very quickly just how you can create a nice, cool, and editable effect in Photoshop where you create some text that has basically an image contained in it. This can be a pretty cool looking effect if used properly, and something you can use for social media and something you can use for your website, anything where you think this effect is useful. And it is very cool and just a nice nice easy effect to create. So I actually have some images here loaded up. I've got this darker city image and a lighter city image. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to create very quickly just an image that we can use. So I'm actually going to right click here and copy this image. And I'm going to just hit Control V to paste. Now, a better thing to do would actually be, I'm using Pexels on this particular project. I can actually go and download it, and then you can place it in there. Just for the sake of being quick, I'm just going to copy and paste. Makes no difference because we're not actually going to be editing these images, so if you place it, it'll be a smart object. You won't be able to edit it, but that's okay. So I've popped that in place basically by hitting, after I've pasted it, by going edit and paste, I've just gone to free transform and I can move that around. So I'm going to be doing the same thing again for the other image. So I'm basically going to go back into Pexels, right click on this image and copy the image. I can hit edit and paste or Control V. And then I'm either going to edit, free transform, or hitting Control T. So edit and then free transform or hitting Control T, so I can resize this. I want it to basically sort of fill anywhere where I think the text might be going. So I've got two images here, a dark and a light image, and they're basically ready to start typing. So I'm going to turn these off by clicking the little eye symbol on the layers palette here. If you don't see this layers palette, head to Windows and then to layers to turn it on. But this is where we want to be moving things around because it acts like you've got sort of like images on top of images. We've got like a white canvas with the light image, and on top of that, the dark image. But I'm going to hit these little eye symbols to turn that off. And I'm going to actually get my text tool here and type in big city. It's a little bit small, and you'll notice here, now this font isn't too easy to read, but it's nice and thick. It tells a story. It looks kind of cool. And for the sake of the video, we'll stick with it. I'm going to get rid of the dash. So we've got our big city text. If you don't like that, we could actually find another font if we want to, something that's bold. So I've got a few options here, but you can head to say Google Fonts or something like that. Maybe something like this. Maybe we'll stick with that since we can actually read it. And I'm going to create another layer called Livin'. So I'm going to actually grab this big city layer. I'm going to drag it down to this plus symbol so I can duplicate it. Move it down by holding down Control and just clicking and dragging. And click in, typing Livin'. So that's simply by having the text tool selected, I can click into these layers and edit them at any time. This one here, I feel like the words are a little bit close together because it looks like LMN instead of Livin'. So I've got this layer selected, so I click Livin' here. I'm going to just hit Control Enter to make sure. If you're in here editing, hit Control Enter or Command Enter, I think it would be on Mac, to exit out. And because you've got the text tool here selected, or you can simply press the letter T on your keyboard, you can go up the top here to this little panel. If I click on that, I get the character dialog box. Now here where you see a V and an A with an arrow going horizontally, I can actually change, by dropping that down, I can change the width between letters. So I've got my Livin' there. I'm going to actually, because I still have the text tool selected, click the color, make it black. I'm just going to double click this to shrink it. And now I'm going to hit our free transform again by hitting Control or Command T, so Control T, and just sort of pop the Livin' bit down the bottom there. So we're almost ready to go. Now, one of the reasons I want to do this tutorial is because what people quite often do is a process where they'll actually Control click the big city text and use that to then go into a layer like this one here. They might mask it, turn this off, and they've got the effect ready to go. The problem is you can't actually edit this. If you want to use it again, you've pretty much got to undo the effect, change the text, go back. It's a bit of back and forth. What we want to do is we want to be able to edit the layer itself, edit the text itself and retain the effect. So I'm actually going to undo this. We've got Big City living here. I'm going to take this, undo, remove the mask. I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to move it above Big City. And I'm going to turn it on, and you see it covers everything except for living, which is sitting just above it. By holding down Alt and hovering between the two layers, if I click, when I get this little symbol here with the arrow in the box, I click and it actually binds that layer to the text layer underneath it. So now if I click into that text layer, I can type in Bigger City. I can move it around and retain that same effect. So I actually get this same effect quite easily. And then if I want to even add a bit more, I can click on this other layer here with the town, with the city, turn that on, maybe take the fill, drop that down a bit. Whoops. Make sure you actually click the layer you want to and have it highlighted here. Bring that down, and we've got a very subtle little city background. So that's pretty cool. Another effect you can even do if you want to get something more natural is you can turn this off, take this same layer, drag it down to the plus symbol to duplicate it, and it is linked to the layer beneath it, but if I move it away, that link disappears. And what I can do is, again, grab that fill and turn it down until I'm happy with it, so we get this effect here. And now whenever I move that text layer, it sort of highlights around. Now there's a few other things you can do just to add a little to it. If I've actually got this image selected here, let's say I find that just a bit hard to read, maybe there's too many whites in there, I can right click on the actual image itself and go to blending options. Now what I can do, if I move this off so we can just see at least some of the text here, I can go to color overlay here, and you can see I've got a dark blue picked. If I actually go to something a little greener, something more natural to the image, I can pull it all the way up and go solid, or I can knock it down and find a nice medium where the image is still there, but it's darker and it sort of interferes less with the shape of the text. Another thing you can do, which I don't know if it'll work on the image, is actually set up an outer glow. No, you have to use the text, but the color overlay will actually overlay on the image and sort of impose that color on it. You can do the same thing with the gradient overlay if you want to, where you can have black to white or some kind of gradient, but a color overlay is a nice simple one. And then we can actually click the text layer itself, right click, blending options, add an outer glow. I can actually just make that normal, make it 100% white. And you can see we've got a very subtle outer glow there now. I want to put the opacity all the way up. And of course I can make the size of the glow bigger, smaller. I do want it to sort of display a little less aggressively, but it just helps lift it off that background. And you can see we now have this effect. Very simple. I can go in, I can edit, change it back to Big City with a dash, without a dash, and it's just very easy to edit and change. So it's a good way just to be able to play. You can then, of course, you can duplicate if you want to. You can actually hold down Control, select both of these layers, and then hit Control G to group, or Command G if you're on Mac. And then you can even just duplicate the group by dragging that group down to the plus symbol, and then you've got another layer you can play with. So that's pretty handy. Now, of course, the effect doesn't have to be dark on white. You can reverse it. So let's say we get this image here, and we crank it right up to full. I'm going to go into our group that we just created, and where it has the outer glow there, I'm actually going to turn that off. And what I'm going to do is simply take this layer, click on the color overlay, so double click on that. I can choose white and boost that up. Although you can just do that with a white opacity layer, so that's not really a big deal. But if you decide to, you can even turn this layer, delete this layer altogether, grab our city image from down here, make it active. We want to move it in above Big City, make it full strength, and then we're going to hold down Alt and bind it to that layer. Now, because the city is underneath here, we can just sort of move it up and move it around. So you've got a few options there. That's a little bit hard to read, but I would just simply, again, I would go to blending options, color overlay, choose a white, and just sort of simplify it a bit. And that way you've got your image. The living's a little bit hard to read, so maybe we'll make that like a lighter color. Now, of course, the contrast here isn't great, so I would even consider taking this image and darkening it even further. So what you can do is actually create a adjustment layer. So we go down here to this little circle with the sort of the black and the white half. We can go to curves, and of course we can just darken this layer a bit to really bring that out. We can even move this top bit here down. If you're not familiar with curves, I am working on a video explaining curves, but basically it really depends on the color space of the image as to whether you want to bring this line toward the bottom or toward the top to darken or lighten. But you see here we've got that effect quite easily. So that's pretty much it. It's a nice simple effect, but it is something you can use to great effect. You want to use nice thick fonts for the images, otherwise the images simply won't show up. However, when I say that, depending on the image and the effect, you can experiment with thinner fonts, but I think you'll find in most cases a thicker font is going to do the job better. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you're after more simple effects like this, please give the video a like, consider subscribing, but even pop a comment below. Even if you have something in particular that you think you want to see, describe it below, even pop a link there if you want to, and that way we can see if we can recreate a video for you so you know how to do it yourself. Otherwise, thanks for watching the video, and yeah, I hope to see you again soon. Have a good day.